Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Dan and we are already in February. It is the season of love, things are getting warmer, and I'm feeling the need to sort of have less of a laissez-faire relationship with my reading. This year so far has been very loosey-goosey as far as what I wanted to read. I haven't really taken part in any real events yet. Haven't talked to you about everything I've read. We'll get to it in a future video, but I sort of want to share my plans with what I plan on doing for this upcoming month. I think a little more structure is going to help me out quite a bit. This will be just my video for books that I plan on reading. I have another comic project, I guess, what I want to say, coming up, but that will be a separate video because there's just a separation in my mind between comics and books. But I do plan on participating in some events this month. And the first one, well, you kind of notice that there's like a hole right here in my shelf. I also feel like this year there's also been like a hole in my reading. And there are about 4 booktubers who want to fill that hole with their private dick. That is Sherlock Holmes. So I will be participating in Holmes is Where the Heart Is this Valentine's season. Holmes is Where the Heart Is a new booktube event where we will read some of the works of Arthur Conan Doyle, particularly his detective, Sherlock Holmes, and we have prompts for every week, so this will be like more of a tantric process. The first week we're going to read something from the long canon of Sherlock Holmes. Oh, let me pause and just say this event is being hosted by Mark at Booktime with Elvis, Jim at Mystery and Mayhem, Randy at The Literate Texan, and Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads. If you want a lot more, probably, more thoughtful introspection on Sherlock Holmes, those are probably the guys to check out. I'm just a fan. So, we are going to read, for week 1, part of the long canon for Sherlock Holmes. That's one of the 4 novels. And I might be basic, but I think it's in this volume. This is the Bantam box set I got at a thrift shop. Has all of the stories in 2 volumes, which is really convenient. But I will be reading The Hound of the Baskervilles. I seem to recall that being my favorite. I have read all of the Sherlock Holmes stories, but it's been a while. So, Hound of the Baskervilles might be just a fun thing to dip into this month. Week 2, the prompt is something from the short canon, and I am purposefully not saying what I'm going to read for that because I want to approach it in the moment. So that'll just be reading one of the many short stories in any of these volumes. That'll be pretty easy. Week 3 is for Pesti, and I plan on reading Mycroft Holmes by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Anna Waterhouse. So this is just, I think part of the first part in a series. I think I have in a physical book the second book in the series, but this features Sherlock Holmes's much smarter brother, who usually works with the government, and I think I'm going to enjoy it. I always like Mycroft in various iterations of Sherlock Holmes, so getting to play with that character himself might be real fun to read. The last prompt is read something, this is for week 4 of February, read something that is inspired by Sherlock Holmes. Now, I have a very sad story about the Read What You Own challenge from last year. I failed miserably at it, doing much better this year. But last year, I did go to a thrift shop, and I did see a stack of books of Solar Pons, who was like a pastiche Sherlock Holmes character. That would have been perfect for inspired by Sherlock Holmes. I have Sherlock Holmes stories and pastiche, and getting that seems to be pretty easy. But what do you do for something that's influenced by Sherlock Holmes? That's almost any modern mystery with a private detective. So I thought immediately of Star Trek. And I'm like, oh, well, in Next Generation, Data is often running around as Sherlock Holmes in the holodeck. That'd be perfect. There's only one book that features Moriarty and Data as Sherlock Holmes, and that's in the post-Nemesis line of Star Trek novels. Nemesis was the final movie that they made before there was a long break. It was the last book in the canon for the longest time before the series Picard was announced. And a lot of those books kind of created their own continuity. And I want to read those, but right now I'm watching all of the original Star Trek shows first before I move on to that, because then it'll be more fresh in my mind. I've never seen every episode of everything, so I want to do that now that it's all like in one streaming package. But that takes some time. And I've been holding off on reading the post-Nemesis novels because I want to get the most out of it by just being up to date on all of the characters and whatnot. Long story short, this is in like the middle of the post-Nemesis novels, and it would require me to get the best out of it. I would have to read all of the books in that series to get to that point. I don't want to do that. So that's not going to happen by the end of this month. And so I'm like, oh, well, maybe there's a comic about Data as Sherlock Holmes in the holodeck. There is, but it was never collected. It was by one of the lesser-known comic studios that got the Star Trek rights. And it was collected in, like, the Eagle Moss. We collected every Star Trek comic collection, but they don't have any digital versions of that. And I was thinking about maybe just ordering on eBay to get, like, that one volume that had but it was just too much money. I didn't want to spend that. So I just looked around for what I had, and basically this was a long way of me saying that I don't really have a good option for this because I can't go out and buy a physical book, but I do have a Star Trek comic that has a murder mystery, and that is Star Trek Who Killed Captain Kirk? The USS Enterprise has encountered many strange beings and situations, but none has chilled them to the bone more than death. Someone aboard the starship has killed Captain Kirk, or so it seems. While the captain recovers, it falls to his loyal crew to uncover the facts behind the case and learn whether one of their own is a cold-blooded killer. That's what I got from a little free library. So, looks good, but that's my cop-out for the final Sherlock Holmes prompt. Is the best I could do without breaking my Read What You Own challenge. So, I'm also currently reading The Olympian Affair, which is the second book in the Codex Alara. No, in the Cinder Spire series by Jim Butcher. And I haven't talked about the first book yet, but we'll get to it in a future video. But I'm enjoying it, so it's good. I switched to audiobook format for it that I was able to get through the Libby app for my library because I did the audiobook for the first book when I reread it, and I really enjoyed the reader, so I am continuing that way, and I can do it while I do other things. So that'll get finished in February. I also am reading all of the Amber books. This is the Chronicles of Amber by Roger Selazny. I decided I'm going to read one book a month because Michael K. Vaughan was trying to read through all of them in January. I think he got through 5 out of 10 books, which is still pretty impressive. But I am only on book 2, and that is The Guns of Avalon. I don't have a cool cover to show you, but The Guns of Avalon, I'll be reading that for February as part of that project. The next thing is for another project, which is the 24 in 24 Banned Books project. MJ at Reading This Life has recruited a bunch of us to read banned literature throughout the year. We're trying to read 24 books in the year 2024 that have been banned. I've read 2 so far. I haven't talked about them again, but I got 2 in January. And so I had to pull 2 more for my February reads. And I've decided on Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. Something I've been wanting to read for the longest time, but just never picked it up. Very influential, very problematic. I can see why it's been banned just from the concept alone. But this one This one is a lesser banned book. This is Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. And this wasn't banned until, like, the 1970s by some school in Ohio. Ohio represent. So we will see what is so objectionable about Catch-22. A little more obvious in this case, but Catch-22, something I've been meaning to read as well. Get through the classics. Why have they been banned? We'll find out. So those are that. Those are those. Finally, there's another kind of event, and that is the Wasted Weekend for Garb August. Garb August is an event that was created by Criminali, where in August we read a bunch of trashy fiction, novelizations, or just, things that you'd be embarrassed to read in public. For me, I'm going to read the book Star Wars. This is an adaptation of a movie known as Star Wars by George Lucas. The novelization is allegedly by George Lucas, but I believe it was, what's his name? This is what I get for, not paying attention and preparing ahead of time. But, he's done a ton of novelizations, and it's going to bother me, and so you're going to suffer with me while I look it up. Oh, Alan Dean Foster. Yes, he's written a lot, and I've enjoyed his stuff so far. He's like the king of novelizations. But apparently, Star Wars was ghostwritten by Alan Dean Foster. And I know he did the second book that was ever done for the Star Wars line, and that is Splinter in the Mind's Eye. So it makes sense that he would have touched both books. So I want to eventually get to Splinter in the Mind's Eye in the future, but I want to read Star Wars first, because I really want to see what a Star Wars book written at the time of Star Wars release, when it wasn't like a mammoth of a IP. So I will be enjoying Star Wars for my wasted weekend. That's just a weekend where we're just reading at least one trashy book for the weekend. It's like a sort of like, remember Garb August, remember how cool it is? Let's read trash. So, I started this BookTube channel during Garb August because I was excited about it. So, of course, I'm going to participate in this. And I think that's it. Anything else is just gravy on top, but I will get through these books. I just need to focus my reading. So, events keep me accountable, and you also keep me accountable, and I always enjoy it when I do press myself. So thank you for just being my accountability buddy. But a lot of Sherlock Holmes, a lot of this is just revisiting old fun stuff that we like. We know that we like. So Star Wars, Sherlock Holmes, Star Trek. Yeah. So I think that's it. I do want to talk later about the comics project I'm going to be starting for myself, because I really want to get back into reading comics, particularly American comics, and build a foundation for that. But we'll talk about that another time. I will talk to you later. Thank you.